So today we are going to be talking about agent connectivity and troubleshooting, a very good topic. Our goal at NetBeez is to reduce the amount of time people chase network related issues. And the quicker you can solve any kind of connectivity issues, especially around NetBeez, especially at deployment, the better. For those who I haven't spoken to in a while, my name is Stephen Prugar. I'm a customer success engineer over here at NetBeez, both NetBeez for coming up on 3 years. So topics we're going to cover. We're going to talk about network agents and remote agents when it comes to connecting agents or installing agents and what to do if they don't appear on the dashboard. We'll cover some of the other miscellaneous issues, including licensing, and then we'll finish up with RMA and support. So we're going to jump into network agents. So connecting network agents, pretty straightforward when it comes to getting them set up. There are some things to consider, which we'll cover in a little bit. Those will be around like firewall and those kind of configurations. But the agents themselves, more or less, are plug and play. If it's PoE enabled, you'll simply connect the agent to a PoE enabled switch, make sure it's also enabled on the port, wait a few minutes, and check dashboard, see if it pops up. If it's power supply based, the only additional test thing you'll need to do is plug the agent into wall power first. You'll still plug it into the switch, you'll wait a few minutes, and check the dashboard, make sure it pops up. Now, here's a question. If it does not appear in the dashboard, what do you do? Because again, it is supposed to be plug and play more or less, especially if you're plugged into a new location, if it's a brand new deployment, new department, you've done some big network changes and you're reconfiguring everything, it may not pop right back up. So the first thing you gotta do is you gotta check to make sure it's receiving power. So that's either going to be a red or a blue light. It's gonna be solid, depending on the model and how long you've gone. There might also be a solid green light. It can vary. They're either going to be in the front, especially on the Wi-Fi agents. On the wired agents, you'll kind of see through up top, and it should be solid. The next thing you'll be looking for is a blinking light. It's either going to be amber or green. It's going to be right around the Ethernet jack. That's going to show network connectivity. If you don't have one or both of those, you want to go down a really short list and then you'll open up a ticket with us. So first things first, if it's PoE, check the switch, check to make sure the PoE is enabled on the port. If the switch is good, test another known working agent, test another PoE device. If neither one work, then test another port, test another switch. If they do work, you can pretty much skip down to open a ticket. Maybe a quick power cycle on the agent may not be a bad idea. Just remove power, wait a few minutes and plug it back in. But at that point, you'll most likely be contacting us. If it's power related, you can't go any further. Checking firewall rules and everything is not important if it's not getting power. If you are getting power to the agent, then you're going to want to check to see, is it unable to resolve the FQDN, right? So if you check the network map, there should be a MAC address on the agent itself, actually printed on the agent. So check network map, see what the IP is, if you can see, and if there's routing between you and the agent, and you'll also need port 22 open, you should be able to initiate an SSH session. And all you do is just hit the agent IP, and you'll be able to get some information. What you're looking for is making sure it can resolve the host. You also look to check ports. So there's one port we're interested in. I'm going to mention another port in a minute as well. So port 20018 is what the agent uses to communicate to the server. So the port has to be open from the agent to the server. Port 443 is used in two capacities, one from the agent to the server to receive agent updates, which is important. The updates come from the server. And the server itself, this is not relevant to this, but good to know, has to have port 443 open to our repository to get the updates. We do have a update security guide available. If you want it, just reach out to us, either support success@netbeez.net or me directly. I can send you over the updated security guide. So you want to make sure you can resolve the FQDN. Now, again, if for the agent to connect, it has to be able to resolve the FQDN and establish a TCP connection, again, with 20018. If you can SSH to the agent, you can perform a ping or a telnet session to the FQDN if you do telnet to specify the port. What you can do on the DHCP servers, you can check to make sure that the server's offering an IP address to the agent. Again, all you have to do is reference the agent's MAC address and you're good to go there. So if all this is good, then we will go to open up a ticket, see what's going on. And here's the reason why. These steps, by and large, can be done in a pretty quick period of time. Just, rebooting the agent, checking another agent, check another switch, that can be done pretty quickly. And then sit down, run a quick session, SSH to the agent, just double check a couple things. That can all be done pretty quickly. When you bring that information to support and say, hey, we've already done all this, we got nothing, we're going to quickly move to an RMA. We might have 1 or 2 steps, but if not, if you don't do any of that, we're going to have you replicate all those steps. And each step you're going to have to report. We'll give you a series of try these 2 things and try these 2 things. And you're going to be doing a lot of back and forth, can take hours or days. And then that just delays the time it takes for you to get something operational. But we do want to check it, because if you don't need to RMA, if it's just a quick reconfigure, quick firewall setting change or something like that, and you're on your way, you're back doing what you're doing. So again, we're trying to reduce any amount of time you spend on NetBeez configuration and allow for a NetBeez uptime. So once you go through this list, let us know everything you've done. We'll verify 1 or 2 things, and we can start the RMA process if needed. So remote worker agents. Installation, pretty straightforward. If you go to the dashboard, the top right-hand corner, there will be a question mark. Then you go to online documentation, and here you'll see, depending on how full your screen is, either 1 or 2 columns. You're looking for the top one. It's start. It says install NetBeez agents. When you click on that, there'll be a bunch of options. 4 and 5 is what you're looking for. MSI installer for Windows, DMG installer for Mac. You're going to need the secret key in any situation, whether you're doing a manual install or a management tool install. So when you go to the cog, this top right-hand corner, go to about, it's a secret key. Now I obfuscated ours for security reasons, but that's basically what it looks like. It'll say secret equal, and that line of string after the equal is what you're looking for. And then you'll either input that into a manual installation. When I say manual, I mean actually just copy and pasting the agent into, or the secret key into the installation process. There's a true manual, which you'll never want to do that. That's the best way of doing it. Or you can do an automated rollout as well. Now, what if the agent doesn't appear in the dashboard? It's 3 things, almost entirely 3 things. Agent's not running, probably due to installation, which we'll cover that in a minute, security or AV settings, or firewalls. So agent's not running. Let's verify that. You go to the bottom right-hand corner, you go to the tray icon, you look for this little NetBeez. It's an NB, black circle with colored lettering. If it's red, it's offline. It's green, it's online. You want to make sure it's running. If not, you can start it. You can also go to settings, and when you do that, you'll see all the information about the agent. Is it set to auto start? What the secret key is, what the FQDN of the server is. You can check all that really quick. Maybe you copy and pasted and shorted the secret key, so it's not connected to the right server or a server in general. Another thing you do to check to make sure it's running is some background process under Task Manager, NB agent helper, then the application exe file as well. If the agent's not running, one of the things you should try to do is run the program as an admin. So like this NetBeez icon, right click, hit run as admin. Don't stop there. Even if it does work, there's probably an underlying issue. It's usually permissions that are set by like GPO roles or something like that. So you're gonna have to dig deeper why it didn't automatically start. It might be the profile or permission levels, but you'll want to keep digging just to see what's preventing it from automatically starting. Security settings is another thing. So, before you roll these out, if there's like an approved application list, make sure you add NetBeez to it. Make sure that there are exceptions or rules that the AV is not going to prevent it from installing or running. Verify there's no GPO or other rules preventing NetBeez from running. If all this fails and you just can't get it to start, what you'll want to do is you'll want to open a ticket, which I'll go over again how to do it, but just email us essentially. And you'll probably need some log files. You can find them at C:program files x86 NetBeez. Very simple. There's like 3 or so in there. For firewall rules, what you're going to want to check is, again, same thing. TCP connection port 20018. Very straightforward. There's some things to consider. think about how the traffic is routed, how your Windows or Mac endpoint routes to the internet. Is it a split tunnel VPN to a hosted solution, either your AWS or ours? Is it a full tunnel VPN to an on-prem server? You know, some of the excuse me, some of those things may not require many rules. Some of them might. It just really depends. So just make sure that you're able to, and you can do this from individual consoles. Try to ping the fully qualified domain name from command prompt or whatever have you from the server or from the endpoint, and make sure it can reach that connection. So there are some things to consider on-prem versus hosted and what kind of VPN you're running. You can also check the logs too. There's nothing preventing you from doing so. It might give you some good information about things that could potentially be blocking the connection to the server. But in the end, that's usually something for us to look at, but it might give you some good insight as well. So you're welcome to check the logs. So some other issues. Licensing and other miscellaneous things. So agent types, there's two different kinds. There's network and remote. So network's going to be physical, whether it's a wireless or wired sensor, virtual. So if it's installed on Linux box, if it's installed in a virtual machine like what I do, if it's a software-based install, if it's in a container like on a Cisco switch or just a container like on my server, if it's an external agent for us, that's when we host in our AWS, or if it's a Windows or Mac agent, that's the remote. So if you reach the limit, so if we get like 100 of 100 deployed, just because we have 85 here open, because we only deployed 15, we can't just suddenly borrow, right? The system does not let you do that. The reason for that is because they're not treated the same. As you see here, there's a limit, right? There's a resource limit on these that can vary, and depending on your agreement, everything like that, but these limits are higher. You can do a lot more with a physical agent than you can a remote agent. Couple reasons for that. Remote agents are usually larger deployments, and we also don't want to bog down not only just the server resources, but also the computer resources. We want it to be very low level, no impact on the end user experience. So when you start running, while some laptops can run 100 tests, that might really impact the user experience versus running 20. So that's not really fair to have one or the other. So you have to make sure you have the correct amount of licenses on your account. If not, reach out, we'll figure it out. And like I said, you can't trade. If the license is expired, you'll pretty much know. It'll bring you back to the beginning of the dashboard saying, hey, you need a new tool, but that'd be a reason why it's not gonna come online. The last thing is the agent can be blacklisted. So especially with remote agents in particular, they will continue to connect as long as the software is installed on the laptop or desktop. So now if this laptop or desktop gets wiped or if the agent gets uninstalled, it'll stop. But if you delete from the dashboard, it's not permanently deleted. So what you would do is say like a laptop is misplaced or stolen or lost or whatever, right? You blacklist that agent. But then if that laptop is recovered, say like, the kid took the school or whatever, they didn't know any better, then you would unblacklist it. But if you forgot about that, you'd be wondering why it's not working. Or delete and blacklist are right next to each other. You could do it by mistake, and I've had it happen many times. So that'd be a reason why an agent may not come up as well. So when we talk about RMA and support, most of the first part of the guide is listed in our troubleshooting guide. We'll be looking to probably add a remote worker probably in the near future. But if you need help or want to open a ticket, well, if you want to open a ticket, email support NetBeez done it. They actually will open a ticket through our tracking and management system. If you use the chat function, what we'll primarily do there is we'll help troubleshoot, probably a little bit more on demand, kind of do a little back and forth. Especially once you get a hold of somebody, you'll have our undivided attention at that point. But if that's really only going to go through troubleshooting steps, you'll end up having to open a ticket if it's RMA anyway. But if you are trying to, get some good ideas or trying to figure out what's going on, you can use either. If the agent is verified defective, so that would come from our team and say, hey, look, this agent is defective. It's a pretty small amount. I want to say it's at or under 1%. So they're not defective too often. I mean, obviously they have a life cycle of a handful of years. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's not that rare we have defective agents. What will happen is they will send you the link to the RMA form. It's important to note that this will dictate how quickly you get your agent replaced. So once you get the RMA form, until it gets filled out, which I will be notified, my team, customer success, will be notified as soon as it's filled out. Then the clock starts, and it'll take about 1, maybe 2 business days, excluding weekends, holidays, everything like that. And then I'll start the process. I'll get the order submitted to our production team, and they'll send it out to you. In the form, it's going to ask you for your information. It's really important to get the email address. It's going to ask for your phone. We typically prefer email for main contact, but we'll need both because there could be some questions, especially international shipping. Addresses are a little different, so we might ask for additional information, like how does your country deal with this kind of code or that kind of code or whatever. So it's really important to get that. It's going to ask for the MAC address, which should be in the dashboard, print on a unit. You'll want to put that there. It'll ask you for Fastly, Giggy, or Wi-Fi. We've moved away from Fastly to mostly in the life, so most of you are Giggy or Wi-Fi at this point. Then it's really important that it's going to ask for power supply or PoE. Now, I haven't looked at the RMA form recently, as in like the actual questionnaire. I only look at the answers. But if it's power supply, note that. If it's PoE, just ask for a replacement PoE. We do have a lot of agents out there that the PoE is external and it doesn't need to be replaced. But all of our new agents are all internal. All of our Wi-Fi agents dating back to probably at least 2018 are internal as well. So it's better for us to send an extra PoE and have it on hand for you than you not getting it. And again, like most of our newer Giggy, the PoE is internal as well. So it's just good to either, if it's a PoE replacement, ask for a PoE. If it's power supply, go with power supply. We do cross ship, so we're going to send you the replacement agent first, and then you'll send the old one back. It'll include a return label in almost every situation. Assume we want it back, we will typically tell you if we don't. And the situation if we don't is if we've determined that the unit is not fixable, meaning like it wasn't like a corrupted OS or like a logic issue or a memory storage issue or something like that. If we determine that, this is a physical unit we can't, fix with software or something like that, then we're probably not going to want that back. If it's end of life, some of the older Fasties, some of the newer Fasties are not, but some of the older Fasties are end of life, we may not want those back. So we'll let you know if we don't. Kind of assume we do. If you don't get a label, ask, and we'll tell you, we don't want that back, or maybe we forgot to include, and we'll send you one, something like that. So, but we do cross ship, so you don't have to worry about that. Once you get it, you'll have. We know stuff happens. We just want you to get it back in a reasonable amount of time. We don't have hard dates, but usually once you receive it, like get it back to get it tracking to us within about 2 weeks would be nice, ideally. So, but that's pretty much it.